Welcome back to Mark Holbus, the vlog, everyone. Thanks for joining in. As you'll see, I'm kind of set up to go do a little sporty activity. Actually, I'm heading off to take my son to a hockey practice. I'm helping out coach there a little bit, so it's going to be another fun skate. Going to get out there, put the skates on, grab the stick, and do a little shooting of the puck. But after that, we're going to head down to my favorite mechanic shop. Ed, who runs Elegant Motors here in Edmonton, no question the guy to have in your team if you're looking for services on your supercar. But I've owned Porsches for years. I mean, I've got a Lamborghini now and I've got the F Type, but I've had Porsches for many, many years before the Lamborghini. And as a result, I've learned all of the ins and outs of a 911. I knew the 911 world in, out, backward better than the back of my hand, actually. And so Ed also knows. Ed is basically where I learned a lot of my little things and idiosyncrasies regarding the mechanical side of it, of ownership of these 911s. So we're going to head down to Ed's shop. You're going to like to see what we've got. He's got an engine half torn apart, and he's got some tricks up his sleeves. We're going to pick Ed's brain today because, after all, if you own these kind of cars, that's fine if you own the F Type R or one of those cars and you still have warranty. That's easy. You drive it down to the dealer. If something breaks, they fix it, and away you go. But if you don't have a car that's under warranty, for example, the Lambo, it's an '05, not even close to a warranty left on it. As well, if you're driving an older 911 or any of those kind of cars, you're going to need a guy like Ed in your camp to be able to not only help you troubleshoot, definitely fix your car for you and do it at a reasonable rate. And of course, always be at essentially at a phone fingertip call away, that he can always be available for that chit chat. Now, Ed's a great guy, but let's go and take a look and see what Ed's got to say about the 911 engine. All right, so we wrapped up hockey. Let's go see Ed now and see what he's got in his garage.
There you are.
Ed. Hey, Ed, what's happening?
Not much, you.
Not too muchy.
Okay.
Oh, look at this.
Oh, that's...
911 parts everywhere. Okay.
Yeah, I got 2 engines and a Maserati engine.
The Maserati engine.
That's for down the road. Okay.
Okay, so what do you know?
On these older engines, especially when you've got a little bit of, miles on it, you got, the chains are stretched a bit, wear, normal wear. On this one, we just did a quick valve job and re-ring. But on the tensioners, I wanted to let you know, a lot of people don't know this. So when the engine's running, these are hydraulic tensioners. The more oil, the more the revs, the more pressure the oil goes in here, the pressure, and pushes up on this lever, right? Let me get us.
Yeah, tightens up the chain right there.
Tightens up the chain.
Chain's very tight now.
Yeah, but it will tighten the chain, It's tight, but it'll tighten the chain. But when you release the gas and the RPM comes down, and a lot, especially on like old CIS systems, if it's not adjusted right, it just whoa, And when the RPM drops down to next to nothing, 100 RPM or so, the chain comes right down very low, and could skip a teeth or 2 or 3 on these. And then you got major problems. Then you got bent valves and broken valves, and it causes it's bad.
And translation, dollars.
Huge dollars. So for what I do, and I've been doing this for many, many years, is I always install a Jerry Woods. Here it is. Jerry Woods sells it, Smart Racing. It's cheap. And basically, they give you like these caps. Like on this, because I use the bigger ones on that one, but you can see there's bigger and smaller height. Mm-hmm. And there's shims, right? 0.5 to 1 millimeter shims, right? So basically, it's simple. You just see where this one lies. You get this up, and you measure the distance. First, you take your hydraulic tensioner. You collapse it, and you put the pin in. I always have a lot of the factory's pins, but they give you a pin in there like that.
Okay.
Or I got tons of factory pins. Like you collapse it and you put your pin in there.
Yep.
Then you put your hydraulic tensioner in here, and then you measure the distance between. Let me get something to show you here. Then you measure the distance between the bottom of here to the bottom of the tensioner, right?
That
So-
offset, yeah.
Yeah. So they say they want about 2 to 2.5 millimeters. So you subtract that from 2 millimeters, and then you go to the chart. The chart tells you, how many meters and what shims to put, the short, the long, and everything is here. It's very, very simple. But it protects the engine quite a bit because, when it's going whoa, whoa, and let's say you're driving on the highway or you're in a city and you're going hard and you let go of the gas and the engine goes whoa, down to next to nothing and it comes back up. As it's going down, the chain tensioner, it's got a bounce, right?
Yeah.
And if the chain is a
Starts
little
slopping.
yeah, and if it's a little bit slack on a chain because it's older, it'll jump a tooth or 3 or 2 or whatever, and it just destroys the engine.
Because why? They're interference engines.
Oh, huge interference engines, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's just common sense and it's cheap and
Some cheap insurance for
absolutely
an older engine that's not
Yeah.
maybe freshly built with all new parts.
Yeah.
It's a good way to kind of give you a little extra insurance.
Yeah, and like you call Jerry Woods Smart Racing. I talked to Richard there, or Richie, and he'll set you up, and it's a great thing, man. You should never put an engine together with the hydraulic tensioners without making sure that the clearance is there,
Right.
right? Because it comes right down.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but some of the original older generation air-cooled engines didn't even have hydraulic tensioners. That didn't come out until 84, I believe,
Yeah.
by factory. So the earlier cars, they had more of a mechanical
Yeah, but
tensioner.
you can buy those. I have those in my toolbox. The stoppers, and you can put. It's got like a round stopper, and it's 2 Allen, and you tighten the 2 Allen bolts, and it will stop it from collapsing more.
That'll
down.
essentially just stop it. The engine will probably stall, but you won't destroy the engine.
Yeah, but on hydraulic tensioners, you would.
Yeah.
Because
But this has always been considered an upgrade, the hydraulic tensioners.
oh, it is absolutely it is. But I mean, there's always issues with everything. It's definitely an upgrade, absolutely.
Yeah.
But with time, your chain stretches a little, and you get more play, and then the oil pressure goes up and pushes it. But as you let go of the gas, there's no more oil pressure, and normally there should be enough pressure to absorb the chain going down on it, right?
Yep.
But sometimes it doesn't, and they'll skip a teeth and.
I've seen catastrophic. I had an engine once, actually. I mean, I think a lot of people that drive fun cars often at some point miss a shift or do
absolutely.
something different, and that's kind of the same effect. The old what they talk about, the money shift, right? Where the same result is essentially you're skipping a cog. Sometimes you over rev, and that usually what that means is you're skipping a cog. You're kind of over revving the engine. The valves float. And the same result is essentially
Absolutely.
piston and valve contact.
Yeah.
And then it means, again, more dollars,
A
right?
lot more dollars.
Lots of money for guys like you.
Yeah,
Not so
absolutely.
much money for guys like me.
But it's just it saves a lot on the engine, and it's good practice,
For sure. So what are we looking at here? What kind of engine, Ed, if you can kind of expand on this particular engine here, what are we talking? What is this?
This is a 3-liter 1980 911 3-liter air cooled.
So it's from an SC.
Yes, it's from that car there, and the parts are here. It's like I said, it's just valve guides. We did valve guides and valve seals and valves and.
But Ed, I would say looking at this pile of parts, now some people might consider it, kind of, a big heap, but they all have purpose.
Exactly, everything has a purpose.
And they also aren't built like they are today. If you look at a lot of the modern cars from, the Audis and the BMWs and Benzes, it's all plastic. There's very little plastic here. But even, intake runners, all metal here.
They're all aluminum.
That's almost unheard of these days.
Yeah.
You've got metal there, metal fan housing. You've got all kinds of metal parts. Even the tin is all, like little shrouds, it's all metal.
All metal, yeah.
It's all made to last. I mean, there's a typical piston and cylinder set.
That's from the 3.6.
Okay, so that's a larger bore, I believe.
Yeah, that's a 3.6 I gotta do.
Yeah, but is a bigger bore or stroke or both?
Both.
Yeah, okay. So there you go. That's what a 3.6.
Yeah.
See, and as you can see, this one here, well, I think that doesn't look too bad. I don't see a whole lot of I mean, looking at these, are these Nicocel then?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So that's Porsche's.
So is the 3-liter here.
No real significant scoring or anything, so they look like they're in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
I've driven Porsches as long as I've known you, and that's been probably 24, 25 years, I think, when we first met.
Probably.
On and off, and throughout the years, with my cars, I'd either come here at different times, or we've always kind of connected at different points. And you've rebuilt my 930 engine at one point too, right?
Yeah.
So we,
I
from
did
the
that in 2004.
that goes back a ways. I think that kind of dates me a little bit here too. But I'd say the name Jerry Woods, not to give it a plug per se, but like you say,
Yeah, smart racing.
he's been around a long time. I mean, that's synonymous with the Porsche world, particularly the air-cooled stuff, but certainly he's been around, and that name's been around a long time. Let's just revisit the whole concept of the 911. I don't want to beat this dead horse, but the 911 truly is the epitome of sports cars. I don't think...
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
that's a great engine.
there's a lot of amazing cars out there. It doesn't matter. I mean, every manufacturer creates something unique and something fun to drive.
But every manufacturer that builds a car, there's not one manufacturer that doesn't have an issue. All the manufacturers, all cars have issues.
Absolutely.
Every car has its own different,
But the thing is, a lot of brands build one-offs here that are great cars. Like a Nissan GTR. Well, what's the rest lineup look like? Even the Jaguar. I'd even say the F Type that I'm driving. The car is better than almost anything out there right now. But what is Jaguar building that's like that dedicated sports car? You had to go back to the E-Type and things back in the way many moons ago, and they build some really great cars. But consistently, year upon year, the 911 is a car that's been around. It's a staple of the industry, right?
It's iconic.
So, summarizing. So we're talking about an air-cooled 911 engine this is late 70s. So from 78 to 83, they built this engine. It's a 3-liter.
Yeah.
Before that was the 2.7. And that wasn't a great engine.
Not really. They had their issues. The studs would pull out of them. And then I used to back in the day. Used to install a lot of head studs. They pull right out.
And that was the magnesium case.
Yeah, magnesium.
So they just stretched easy. They just too much
steel studs.
Yeah.
And it would pull out.
Too much thermal expansion, and it would just rip the
still have a
the
jig
threads.
for that somewhere here. For the old 2.7s. Oh, there it is. I have an old jig here to install the old time certs that fits into the...
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and then
so you don't miss the mark.
I got the sleeve that goes in there.
Yeah.
And then you drill it out and put it inserts in there. And,
So if you could, they say the fix was helicoils, time certs, whatever.
Well, time certs.
Time certs in the 2.7, right?
2.7, yeah, not helicoils, time certs. That's what I always did.
And then, so you finally do that. You put in time certs. You get that all sorted out. You rebuild it. You still have an engine with 175 horsepower.
Yeah, but times change, right?
Times change. In its day, it was on par with anything else in the business. But you think now 170 horsepower. There's Toyota Corolla, I think, has that kind of power, right?
Yeah,
so
your lawnmower has more than that.
I have a steel backpack blower that actually has as much power as that. Yeah. But no, in all seriousness, it was a great car in its day. Otherwise, the rest of the platform was awesome. So another issue that the early 911s had were the rubber center clutches that you had in the SC cars like this.
But they took them out.
They took them out, and anybody who owned one past about 20,000 kilometers put a new updated clutch. So that was really not a huge issue. But they would blow apart because they were built out of plastic or rubber, and the intent was silence, quieter operation, and it kind of backfired on Porsche. But then another real dud was the 99 to 2004 generation, which is the 996.
Yeah. Well, the 99 had the dual roll. There's a little bit of a better bearing.
In the 99?
Yeah, they had the dual roll.
That was the first year of the 996?
Yeah, and they had a dual roll. If you could, just take out that seal, it'd be fine, right?
Okay, so it's the seal that prevents it dries up inside the bearings.
It's theory. It's like they put a front wheel bearing inside the engine, right?
Yeah.
It's a seal bearing. There's grease inside.
Yeah.
And once the grease is gone, that's it. The bearings were out, and it's over.
Yeah.
Right. If they would have just popped off the seal and put it in there, it would have been fine.
Right.
But it's still a dual roll, so it's still a not bad bearing.
But it still seems to me like a bit of a fragile design, all the way. The whole life of that engine, the whole life of a $20,000 crate engine, lies firmly on one little bearing that essentially is kind of under-designed, under-engineered, really. I mean, any engine could catastrophically fail at any time, sure. But in the Porsche world, they're pretty tough engines as a whole.
Yeah.
If you look at like a 991 or 992 generation, they seem to be a lot more robust so far, I guess. But there's other things that can creep up in those cars too.
Every car has its issue. I don't care what kind of car it is. Every car has its issue.
997s slowly started, especially second generation.
Yeah.
They improved on put a bigger bearing in the IMS.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit more robust in the later generation.
They figured the problem out, they fixed it.
Yeah, a little bit, partially fixed. Not perfect yet. But again, they have, what are some of the fixes? Ceramic steel bearings upgraded by Ellen Engineering. You have the oil fed systems, right? That's another option.
That's another option. There's lots of options out there.
Or an upgraded dual row that they can put in some of the early cars. I think Pelican was selling those. But I mean, there's lots of options. What about any other highlights or lowlights in the Porsche world in your mind?
Oh, there's lots. I mean, we can sit here and talk, all day long, right? I mean, there's lots, but it depends. Porsche's a Porsche, and it's a great car, man.
Yeah.
All around, great car.
Yeah, I think personally, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I know you're a little bit biased, just a little bit, is the Metzger engine.
Yeah, it's a great engine.
Essentially,
That's a beautiful engine.
Yeah, foundational on a GT1 race car. The Metzger engine is also found in a 996 turbo.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the 996 turbos weren't necessarily loved, but mainly the headlights, and people couldn't get around. They associated the term 996 with the Carreras, which were kind of duds. Well, I mean, they're still fun cars, but they weren't certainly Porsche's highlight. But the turbo was really a true Porsche, and it actually had the Metzger engine, which was a split case, dedicated dry sump engine, a proper engine. It was a race engine, and it was just far better designed than in the 996 Carrera engines.
But they still have their issues, right? The water jackets.
Yeah.
Some people like to pin it. I'm not crazy about pinning. I like to weld them.
Yeah.
I'm more of a permanent fix.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so you can weld them, pin them, do whatever.
Yeah.
I know other things. Synchros are bad because guys try to ram the gears as they're trying to speed shift.
Yeah.
So synchros get a little soft on those cars.
But a lot of guys run 1,000 horsepower. Look at Todd at Protomotive.
Yeah.
Todd runs about 1,100 in that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Rear wings, I think that was another issue with those things.
Yeah. They sell the electrical kits from RentKit.
Yeah.
Put them in there. That solves that. But no, they're great cars. 997 turbos. They're all great cars.
They're all great cars. Yeah. You buy a turbo, and it is where Porsche seems to put their energy and their resources and engineering. I think the Carreras, not to belittle them, because I think there's some phenomenal cars, and I love the new 991 and 992 cars. Well, 992 being the latest gen. I've driven all of them at different times. And the 991 Generation 2, in my opinion, is the car to have. Now it's a turbo flat 6. And that's like bad news for Porsche lovers. The 991 Gen 1 is the car that the last of, I guess, if you will, the naturally aspirated cars that, the purists really preferred. But the Gen 2 really were the better performance car all the way around. It'll run circles all day on the earlier models. But the turbos seem to be where Porsche puts their R&D and their parts and their engineering and all of that.
And Porsche, you drive that hard on a racetrack all day long and take it home and have fun with it. It doesn't overheat on the track.
I mean, we can attest. You guys all know my Lamborghini. I'm doing a clutch here, probably pretty quick. Clutches, if you're lucky, you might get 20,000, 25,000. If you're not so lucky, you might get 8 to 10 if you're kind of rough on it. If you're average, you're in that 12 to 15K on a clutch. Is kind of what I'm seeing from numerous people.
Are you gonna put the Kevlar? No.
I don't know. We'll see. I might do Kevlar. Thinking about it.
I don't know. I'm not a fan unless it's because the Kevlar is a great clutch. I mean, don't get me wrong, But when you install it on a factory Gallardo, the first and reverse is brutal. It's brutal. It doesn't. It wants to grab. It grabs so well that it grabs, right?
Yeah.
So there's no. It's hard to inch away or move. If you're stuck in traffic, to move a foot at a time.
Yeah.
It's very difficult with a Kevlar. It's.
Okay.
But
It's durable.
It's durable. I have customers with the twin turbos, and they run that. That's fine.
Yeah.
But they're running 1,000 horsepower in a Gallardo.
You
right?
need the power, otherwise just spins
Absolutely.
clutches,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so we'll see. I haven't really decided. Maybe just go OEM for as much as I drive it.
I would, absolutely I would.
But
You know, Lamborghini, they know what they're doing. You know,
so,
I'm not, you know, you can't be smarter than them, right?
Well,
I am not.
well, yeah, I don't know about that. Sometimes it's all about the perfection, but it's not. Sometimes they do it for drivability reasons and all of that. It needs to outlast warranty. Beyond that, perfect service feeder too. I'm not gonna lie. If you have a car that runs, you know, most owners put 2 to 3, 4,000 kilometers.
Yeah.
It might make it to your, you know, your warranty period, and then lo and behold, you're doing a clutch. Clutch is usually not a warranty item anyway, but it's
But,
a
you know,
perfect thing to keep the
But a
service.
Kevlar clutch and a Gallardo, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's the first gear is, or backing up.
Yeah.
Once you get going, it's fine.
Yeah.
Absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But that initial get go, it's.
Yeah. So Ed, I see I got a couple other 911s in here. I'll just take a look here. I mean, so right there we've got, what is that?
That's an 80.
So that's a 1980 SC. So that again normally comes with a 3-liter flat six, naturally
That's this
aspirated.
one here.
Yeah, that's this engine that we were just looking
Yeah,
at
and
belongs in
then
that
I
car.
got a 964.
And that's a 964. Normally comes with a 3.6 liter flat six, naturally aspirated as well. Not many of these around.
Yeah, that's the heads for them. When I get a chance, I have to put guides in them. That's for the 964.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. Take a look at the head.
Yeah.
Ooh, that looks like it's got some pretty significant valves. I
Well, it's
guess.
going all new. I always put all new valves and new guides.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when I cut the seats on these, I always put 1 degree interference. You don't cut the seats 45, 45. You cut the seats. You cut the seats 45 and you cut the valve at 44. Very important.
Oh.
44 and then 45.
Oh, to allow for wear break-in.
No, the 1 degree interference slap seals better. It seals better. Then you don't have to cut wider around.
Okay.
If you put that in 1 different interference degree, it seals a lot better.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
Wow. Nowadays, a lot of cars seem to be throwaway. I mean, you look at a lot of cars, I mean, they're so expensive to maintain and repair. A lot of the modern high-tech, high-performance cars, the European cars, even, it doesn't matter if it's an Audi or a Benz or a, you know, even if I say, 996, I mean, you can find them for as little as $8,000 in running, I mean, that's a bit of a stretch, but on the U.S. market, you might find them in that range, 10 grand. Canadian market, 15 to 20, you'll find you kind of a rougher version, but probably still running. But, they've essentially reduced down to almost nothing in terms of value. Now, cars like these, the 3.6 liter 964, which is from 1989, had the C4, or the C2 came out in 1990.
This is 91.
And this one here's a 91.
Yeah.
And again, we've got the 80 over there. Now, it's these older cars that are holding their value.
Oh, absolutely.
They went from 10 years ago, you could find a car like that was running nice, in clean shape, cosmetically. You could pick one of these up for 20 grand, 25,000, about 10 to 15 years ago. Now these cars have doubled, maybe almost tripled. If you've got the 930 turbo, which you don't see here, but both you and I owned one.
Yeah.
I sold mine just before the bubble. I had a nice original Canadian car. It had one engine rebuild on it, under it, and otherwise very, very clean, cosmetically through and through, well maintained. I looked after it quite well. And those cars, I miss the bubble. It just destroys me for that sake. I should have kept it. Because I mean, I sold it for, I'm not gonna lie, I don't have to, hide it, but basically I sold it for about 50 grand. That was about, I don't know, going on 6 years ago. And right after I sold it, the market went poof. And all of a sudden, the year, 2-3 years later, you're seeing these cars listed for, 100 and a quarter, 150, 175.
Yeah, but it doesn't, you can list it, but it doesn't mean they're gonna get it.
No.
I mean, I've seen a lot of cars, at that bubble, they're trying to get 130, 140, but they don't get it.
Right.
They still have it.
Right.
I mean, you got to stop and think. Okay, if you got $100,000 or $120,000, what kind of a car can you buy?
Yeah.
So you got to ask yourself there. You got a lot of choices out there.
Yeah.
For 100 grand.
Well, you can get yourself. I'm starting to see now a nice PDK 991 Turbo S for that kind of dollars, the kind of money that these people are asking, and I get it. Like, it's an experience that you won't find anywhere else. I mean, it's got power assist steering. Everything's power assist, not even power assist steering, power assist brakes, right?
Yeah.
It's Joe Armstrong steering in those cars. Everything's manual. There's no ABS. There's no traction control. It's straight up engine, gearbox, and clutch, and nothing much more than that. It is a raw driving experience. And if you're not careful, you can put it in the rhubarb. Ed, you had the same kind, but you modified yours, right?
Yeah, mine was a bit modified, the 930. Yeah, well, you know that, you've driven it. Yeah, it's a bit modified. It's the same thing. It's called the Widowmaker, not for nothing.
But Ed, mine was kind of stock, not stock. I did cams, I had the exhaust, I put a K27 turbo. My car, you know, on paper, never dynoed it. Most people would say in the industry that it was probably pushing about 400 horse. On the limits of the fuel injection, because I still had the original mechanical injection. Ed, you went full, Evo cams, you went
I had the
GT2 cams or whatever.
I had the Garrett full ball bearing 3586.
3586.
Just under the 40.
Okay.
Yeah, a 4-inch intake on the turbo.
Exactly. Full bay intercooler.
Yeah.
You went EFI.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You have to.
Twin plug.
Absolutely, have to.
Yeah, you went like all in. Like that thing was everything.
It was quick.
And running high boost too. Like I think I don't know what you're.
1.3, I think.
Yeah, that was significant enough.
Yeah.
So
314.
I'll tell you this much. There aren't many cars that would beat that thing. It was
quick. It was
very, very quick. We had a few showdowns there over the years, and you know we had a few runs, and I think it's safe to say that you need something significant to pull past that car now. Significant, so seriously fast, and they had a lot of potential.
But nowadays cars are coming out with insane horsepower.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you buy a Hellcat out of the box for $100,000, and that thing
Yeah,
with
but
700
the
horse.
Hellcat is not a fast car on a quarter mile. It's not.
Well.
I mean, I showed you videos of that, right? The Nissan GTR took it.
Yeah.
You had the Nissan GTR and the Porsche Turbo,
Yeah.
and the Hellcat, and when they took off, it was like the Hellcat was still at the starting. And the guys were done the race, and they were still back there, because it wouldn't hold traction. It was just spinning the tires all the way. It wouldn't hold any traction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Porsche's got that really.
Oh, they've got it dialed in. Their new Turbo S. I've seen videos. I'll say Car Wow is a great channel. I like watching videos over there. And they raced, I believe it was a Turbo S against a McLaren 720S. And if you give enough room, the 720 dominates everybody. It decimates everything on the market right now, pretty much, this side of $1 million. But the 911 Turbo S pulled out of the hole so hard, like the 720 left the 720 for dead for a short duration anyhow. Like that 911 is so fast out of the hole.
Yeah, well, there's a guy that did a video on it. If you YouTube it, it's called 50 Launches. And he launches that 911 Turbo with the PDK 50 times. 50 times.
Yeah, with the hard launch, yeah.
Yeah, hard launch. And he said from the first to the last, it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
And try to do that with your Gallardo or any Lambo, any Lambo or any Ferrari. I love Ferraris, I love Lambos, but you cannot do it. It's impossible.
Yeah.
But he does 50 of them, one after another.
Yeah. Well, even GTRs, like, you'll break them after a few launches too, right? Like, most of these cars just can't tolerate that abusive launch, right?
But Porsche can.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's they built it.
Right.
I've never been in Germany, but I think the reason they built it is they drill a hole through the gas pedal and the floor, they put a bolt and nut, they get on the Autobahn and away they go. And when they stop, they take it off and they go on the house, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It stays to the floor in Germany all the time.
Yeah,
so.
no, Porsche is just, they're built like, they're tanks.
Oh, yeah.
They're Sherman tanks, there's no doubt about
There's
it.
no doubt about it.
And if you want to go fast as hell, and you want it to kind of last, that's your best bet.
And not spend $1 million fixing it.
Yeah, right. I mean, you if you want the style, you go with the Lamborghinis, the Ferraris. They got the style, the sound.
They got the look.
I mean, they've got the profile. They're going to attract the attention. But if you want to be sort of like, okay, well, I'll just sit over here and, I'm going to just keep driving all day and watch the Lambo guy have to take his car into the shop, every year for some major service that costs, $18,000 every time it sees the shop, then that's the difference, right? A Porsche can just keep going.
Well, the old saying, when you own a Lambo or Ferrari or something like that, you don't ask how much. You say, here's my credit card, call me when it's done, thank you.
Yeah. But Ed, as soon as we get a chance, once you bring your car back, you get the 996 turbo, moderately modified.
Yeah, it's very modern.
We might have to go toe to toe with the Jag and the 996.
Yeah,
maybe go down to Castro Raceway and take a drag strip, try a drag
The
run.
only thing I did on that was I put a tune from Tata Protomotive, and that's amazing. That made it night and day, huge difference. Yeah. And then I cleaned out the cats, and that's about all I did on that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, a little bump in power. So stock those have about 420 horse, right? Yeah. Who knows? Maybe you're in a 5.5, maybe, with the tune and cats.
I think the tune from Todd gave me 80 or 100 foot-pounds of torque, and well, the horsepower is about the same.
So yeah, you'll be over 500 ponies for sure.
But not that much over, you know. Yeah. It pulls good. I'm not complaining. It pulls, good.
But it's a reliable 500 horse.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, even the 82 930 turbo head was very reliable. I never got stuck with that. I went to California many times, to Palm Springs, and you get in early in the morning in a hotel and you start it, blah 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 blah. The only difference is when you got out of the car, you can smell the fuel on you. You know you've been in a Porsche all day long. Right?
Oh yeah, those old air-cooled cars, like even some of these as an example, or the old 930. Yeah. If I go for a late night drive, I come in later. The wife, the first thing she says, "You've been driving the Porsche, right? Like you stink like oil, you stink like gas. You always smelled of like petrochemicals." Just because that seems to be the old air-cooled 911s just admitted that, but. Yeah, they keep on trucking their bulletproof.
Well, mine had to use a lot of fuel, right?
Yeah.
Because when you kick in a turbo, you want it fat. You want lots of fuel.
Oh yeah.
You don't want it lean.
Yeah.
You know.
Those tree huggers aren't going to love that too much, right? When they're watching the fuel spray out of the exhaust and flames and whatnot, that just burns them to the core. But you know what? It's a lot of fun for car guys. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So. Cool. Well, thanks, Ed.
No problem.
We'll. I think it's time for these boot hills to be wandering. But thanks for showing us around a little bit.
Anytime.
And I think that's just a testament to, how good these cars are. They're worth fixing.
Oh yeah,
like,
Porsches, absolutely.
You look at some of the BMWs. I had a 335. I think you can also attest to that.
Yeah.
If I wasn't fixing it every other week it was here.
Yeah.
And we were trying to fix coolant leaks, oil leaks. What the hell's going on now? Every single week there was some bullshit going on with that car. And I got to the point where I was just kind of done with it. I don't mind fixing. I like wrenching stuff. I'm a real do-it-yourselfer, but it got to the point where it's just, I'd rather be driving it than fixing it. And that's kind of where I was getting. It was just the balance was over the other side. So I was like, the N54 powered 335 had to hit the road. And now I decided, you know what? No, let's try something a little bit out there, a little more outlandish. And the F Type certainly fit the bill. But anyway, thanks again, Ed. And
anytime.
Yeah. I guess we'll hit the road. So
okay.
Cool.
Okay, see you around.
Yeah. So as you guys have heard it yourself, Porsches have always been amazing cars. The 911 is really the pinnacle of performance, sports cars. But I've owned them for many years, and the Jaguar F Type really did appeal to me. As a matter of fact, I drove the latest 991 Carrera S back-to-back with an F Type R, and it became much clearer to me that the F Type was the car I wanted to drive for long-term. So we'll see. Who knows? We might get back to the 911. But if you guys enjoyed it, be sure you give that subscribe button a little smack and come back to the next one. I hope to see you guys real soon. Don't forget to drop a line, and we'll talk to you on the next time. Hope to see you then. Bye-bye.